International trade is a pathway to peace. I fundamentally believe that stronger than I believe anything else. And that's what keeps me going. It's what kept me going then, and it's what keeps me going now. How do countries like communists and capitalists, like Russia and the United States, how do they find a common ground forward? Well, food is one big way that they do that. The first thing we found was, let's talk to chefs and see what they think about our products and blah, blah. And really what we found is, our schooled chefs may have a very limited understanding of the different attributes of different types of potatoes.
Did it sort of surprise you in terms of lack of education on potatoes? Did that surprise you?
Yes, it really,
Hello, my friends, and a very warm welcome back to the show. It's great to have you joining me around the table. I have to ask, how has your week been? What's been going on in your world? I'm always interested to know what has been happening with yourselves. Please write in the comments about your week. Maybe new recipes, they went well, or maybe it was a disaster. Perhaps you got that promotion finally, or maybe you were accidentally locked in the walk-in chiller. We've all been there. Whatever the case, let me know. Some of you are also asking what I've been up to, apart from recording the podcast, of course. Trying to somehow stay fit and not overly eat and stuffing my face with amazing food, which gets harder day by day because of the festive period. Lots of tastings, and perhaps I'm going to update the Chef JKP website. So I've also been doing that and toying with potentially sending weekly newsletters, not just about the podcast and the incredible people that I get to meet, but also tips and hints about the industry, a little sneak peek behind the pass, if you like. So stay tuned. Before we dive in, and I know that you want to support the show, which, by the way, you do, then click that all-important subscribe button on YouTube, or press that follow button wherever you get your podcasts, as it really helps us to grow and bring the content that you love. That's the only thing I'm going to ask. Season 11 keeps bringing incredible stories from across the food and hospitality industry. And today, we're stepping into a completely different but absolutely vital corner of that world. Today's guest is someone whose work may not always be center plate, but whose impact is massive. Victoria Hassani is the Managing Director of GMA Marketing Management, based between New Jersey in the US and right here in Dubai, a leading agency that has helped global food, agriculture and retail brands unlock the Middle East market. Their team is known for market entry strategy, trade representation and consumer trade activations, as well as PR across the GCC. Victoria has spent years bridging continents, bringing together brands, governments and retailers, and in doing so is shaping how food and beverage cultures are marketed as well as communicated, and the experience that they bring to the Gulf and beyond. She's the strategist behind the scenes, the connector, the advocate for brands wanting to make their mark in this dynamic region. Today, we're going to talk about what it takes to navigate the Middle East's food scene ecosystem, how the marketing of food is evolving from packaging to purpose, and why the region matters more than ever to global food brands and hospitality leaders across the world. You're going to get an insight into a world that's behind the scenes yet deeply influential. Buckle up and let's get into it. Now, listen out for a story about her family's deli and dinner time. Time to rock and roll.
Hello, my name is Victoria Hassani, and I am Managing Director of GMA Marketing Management. If you'd like this podcast, who am I kidding? Of course you loved this podcast. Make sure to follow, share, and subscribe.
Victoria, a very warm welcome to the show. Now, as is customary, can you tell me your first or favorite childhood food memory?
James, thank you, first of all, for inviting me today. We're starting out with a goodie, I think. One favorite? No, cannot possibly do it. When we talk about child food memories, my childhood was growing up in my family's restaurant. Therefore, all of my child memories were food memories.
Wow. So what sort of restaurant was it?
It was an all-service restaurant. It was not Michelin star. That did not really exist back in the day. Mm-hmm. So it was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Mostly seafood because we were right on the Jersey shore. But when I say Jersey, it might not be the Jersey you're thinking of. It's New Jersey, so just south of New York. Mm-hmm. And it was a big tourist attraction. So in a way, a precursor to Dubai all these years later when we know the food scene is so dependent on tourism. But, this was a different generation. So not only did my family own and operate a restaurant, we also had a takeout delicatessen and a good old-fashioned ice cream shop next to it.
All together?
All together. It was craziness.
And first of all, I want to talk about the restaurant.
Yes.
So when you're talking about breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
yes,
right? So your parents were working all the time?
Yes. This was quite formative for me in another decade or so to decide not to go into the restaurant business, if I'm honest. Yes, it was insanity. There were, I mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there were maybe years when they were closed on a Monday or a Monday and Tuesday, but it was 3 meals a day. Breakfast ran itself. There was nothing important to say. Lunch pretty much ran itself, but dinner was dinner. And it was different menus and different themed nights and all of the rest of it.
So can you tell me, first of all, how many seats were in the restaurant? Roughly?
Yeah, roughly 75.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then breakfast was a machine.
Right.
Lunch was a machine.
Right.
And then when you say dinner for you, I mean, what sort of occasion was it? Dim lights, tables, different set?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Again, this was the Jersey Shore. So people who are going to the Jersey Shore are not necessarily looking for a Michelin star dining experience. They want something that could be family friendly, as well as a corner where nice couples can celebrate a special moment.
Nice.
We had fishermen coming in the back door saying this was the catch of the day. How about putting some of this on your menu, right? So there was a lot of, I would say chaos, but maybe we should say managed chaos going on daily.
And how long did you actually, stay in the restaurant for, as in, so from as long as you can remember, was it a 5-year stint, 6-year stint, 10-year stint?
Oh, are you kidding me? No, listen, the restaurant was pre-existing. The structure was pre-existing, but had been closed. When my parents stepped in, there was remodeling to happen and all of that. And I remember I was 10 or 11, and my parents thought it was really important that I had 2 brothers, that all of us be part of the foundation of the place. So he gave us a hammer and nails. And all of us had to nail something in. I wasn't so good at that. Like the hammer was almost too heavy for me. So it took me a while to get that nail in there. But that was when I was 10 or 11 years old. And wasn't even my choice. It was a family business until I went to university.
Wow. So for a long time, you understood humans.
Yes.
You understood food. You understood what it, then the family thing as well.
Well, right. I mean, it's interesting because I thought it was perfectly normal for conversations in the family to be about menu development, ingredients, inventory, cost control, staffing. All these are what we talked about, like, organically. This was just the conversations, right? It wasn't until I went to university, I thought I was on permanent vacation. Because I was. I was. It was such an easier. And then I learned other families talked about sports and this and that. But our family conversation, which, again, set me up for life, was about running a restaurant. Yes, it was about the chefs. But my father was a head chef. My two brothers were also chefs. So the masculine energy was back of house. And I'm the only daughter. So I and my mother floated back and forth everywhere. I was front of house. And that was the division from the beginning.
So when you went to university and you didn't study hospitality, what did you study at uni?
Music. I was always a creative, as was my whole family. My entire family, we were all musical in one way or the other. So when I entered university, it was voice, piano, and violin major. And so that's what I started out studying. After one semester, I realized harshly that I was never going to be the superstar that my ego demanded. And I say this in retrospect with a clearer understanding of what happened when I was 18. But when I was 18 and after my first semester, and it was like, this was not going well, I probably chose the wrong instrument. I probably should have chosen voice or piano. I chose violin. Don't ask me what. It wasn't even my dream. But somehow that's what I chose. And after it was like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. I said, no, this is not for me. So I kind of just said, I think I'll go to France.
What, just randomly? And before, you had you traveled away
yes,
before?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
And I had been in France since age 13.
Right.
So it was like the logical thing. I spoke French. I did a junior year abroad in my freshman year.
So when you went to France, and obviously, you had the background in hospitality, so on and so forth.
Yes.
But did you go to France? What did you go to study?
Well, I didn't really have a choice because to me it was about escaping from the environment that I was in, which was uncomfortable. And the program that was offered was intensive language and literature and culture studies. So yes, there actually was one small part of that was food related. We had once a week a chef who would teach us different recipes. And it wasn't with any poor view to become chefs. It was just because that's part of the French culture.
Right. That's quite cool.
It was quite cool.
And where did you study in France?
Université de Caen, in Caen, France, which is a couple out in Normandy. So the dairy region. Oh my God. The number of cheeses and Calvados.
Yes.
So
you had some good times there.
Some great times.
And when you were there, I'm just wondering, just from a foodie point of view, how was it in terms of the produce compared to the US? And you'd been in the hospitality trade for some time, even by the time you got into university.
Right.
But then when you got into France, how different was the food?
Night and day. Now, I haven't said, but my father was Russian Latvian. So my food culture growing up was not, mom's meatloaf, so to speak.
Right.
So for me, it was borscht.
Yep.
It was caviar and blini. It was a bottle of vodka, a bottle of whiskey at the table. It was poppy seed bread. It was all of these exotic, amazing flavors and tastes. So
you must have been like, in a way, completely different to the sort of normal kids, if you know what I mean, because you had that phenomenal education and you were in it. Not only was your family versed in it, you were working. and you saw all these incredible different foods around the table.
Yes.
But I'm sure at the time you weren't really aware. You just thought it was normal.
No, at the time I was embarrassed by it because being Russian in the USA at that time was not a positive thing.
Right.
So my great-grandparents, who I had the privilege to know because we have a longevity gene in our family, never spoke English.
Right.
My grandfather did, of course, and my father, of course, did. But I went to church on Saturday to learn Russian, the Russian language that was taught by my grandfather. But beyond our Russian enclave, on the outside, you had to be American.
Right. So which food did you prefer?
Well, I mean, I do have a couple of funny stories about peas and borscht. But what I preferred as a young adolescent is quite different than what I prefer, today, of course.
Sure. So when you graduated, after that time, what did you decide to do?
Well, after my undergraduate, so I went back and forth between France and US a few times. So like I told you, my freshman year, I went. I came back and then I said, okay, what am I going to do? Well, it's still early. You don't have to really figure it out. But my second semester of my sophomore year, the professors were saying, you should go back to France. Well, twist my arm again, because the French culture is so amazing. The food culture is so amazing. So I did. When I came back finally as a junior, I said, okay, I do need to figure out what my degree is going to be. And French, I didn't have to do anything other than, I don't remember what they used to call that, but you take an exam to test you out of the class. Because I knew more than anybody, any of the students did, right? So I just had a degree in French by testing out of stuff. But what else was I going to take, right? So suddenly I have a double major, and my other major, which is no surprise, was international relations. So we see the thread here.
Okay. So then I want to sort of talk about then the job that you had as business development director in Quebec.
Yes.
How did that come about in the first place?
Right. Okay. That's a really, really non-strategic and strategic answer. After my undergraduate, I went on to do an MBA at a great school in Boston. And in every class and every group, because there's a lot of group work that's done at the MBA level, there's always an international student. And in my groups, there was never one. And finally, I went to ask, how come, because I was very interested, how come in my section we never have an international student? And they looked at me and said, you're the international student, right? Okay, I'm the international student. My brain functions left and right. And I was very interested in cost accounting because there's logic to it. You put things in order, and there was something very relaxing and satisfying about that. But at the same time, there's not that level of creativity that goes along with other fields and like the music that I had done before. So it was in one of these groups that we had a project to work with. We were fortunate enough to work with Procter & Gamble. And that's when I found my home as a marketer, but with an international slant. So following my degree, I went to work for an American yogurt company and it was a French company with an American subsidiary that eventually got sold to General Mills. And after that, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And it was literally as easy as I saw an ad. Like, things like this don't happen, right? You have to have connections. You have to have the network. I saw an ad in the newspaper. They were looking for this person. I applied. I was told there was 350 candidates, and I got the job.
And what were you doing in that particular role?
I was a bridge between Canadian and American cultures, but in my particular case, usually in the food industry. There were times when I played a larger role, but the way I stepped into the position was helping to promote cross-border trade in the food industry. And at the time, the Canadian dollar was 75 cents to the $1. Canadian products were just as quality as American, and it's just a 6-hour truck ride away. So the sell, even though I didn't sell, but the advisory services were not very difficult.
Because also, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but in Canada itself, they also have an amazing food culture,
Yes.
right? Because, it stems from obviously many different things and places, but what was it in particular that you liked about during your time there?
Yeah. Well, again, I was a French speaker, right? So the whole Quebec thing, right? This is the roots, the French roots. So I was a natural for them, right? I understand the U.S. business. I speak French, and the food culture, I understood it. So for me, it was a combination also of keeping a connection point with the French or Franco-Canadien, Franco-Québécois environment, and looking at what else is out there, because West Coast Canada, Vancouver, all of that is another amazing food culture. And Toronto has more industry probably than anywhere else in Canada.
So it was almost 3 separate markets just in Canada, right?
Yes.
But when you were working within sort of the government within Quebec and advising people, what were the sort of biggest challenges you faced between, being that bridge?
Yeah. It's funny, I have an immediate answer to that. The biggest challenge was actually the Canadians made beautiful products. They didn't have the confidence in themselves to go after the U.S. market that they perceived as being this big, bad giant that was going to eat them up. And so U.S. and Canada are the 2 largest trading partners in the world.
Right.
But it all happens quietly, slowly. No one really talks about it because it's not dramatic. So the biggest challenge I had was not the U.S. side. It was convincing the Canadians, you make beautiful products, man. Be proud of them. Hold your ground and demand what you think you should, what your value is.
So by the end of your time in that role, how far had you developed that particular business?
I actually don't have statistics. I didn't prepare any statistics on that today. But we, in different segments of the food industry, came a long way. For example, the seafood segment, Canada has a lot of seafood coming from, and it's all imported in, most of it, 3/4 of it is imported into the United States, or was back then.
Right.
But there was no official, way to do it. It was just all like one-offs. And so you may or may not be aware of something called the Boston Seafood Show. Today, it is, after Barcelona, the biggest seafood show in the world. And Barcelona did not exist at the time, so it was the largest seafood show in the world. It didn't exist when I started, and that became such an important and powerful trading post for international companies in the seafood sector. So that's just one example.
What I'm also interested in, Victoria, is the fact that your degree, as you said, so it was French and then international relations, but then you started doing sort of the marketing side of things. How did you sort of fall into that role?
Well, I think I am a marketer by nature. I think figuring out what makes, there's an expression, I think it's actually a Chinese proverb, but I learned it in French before English, that says, he who tries to understand others ends up understanding himself. And in a nutshell, that's what marketing is. It's understanding someone else. It's not looking from your point of view, it's looking from their point of view. And once you're able to do that, then you find solutions to their problems. So I think intuitively, just from being who I was and growing up in the environment that I did, it's what was my DNA.
Because I think also during that time, again, going back to the restaurant with your family,
Yeah.
you were always finding the solutions almost.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Right. So that just came naturally. It wasn't about being overwhelmed, because when you have a restaurant, the show must go on. People will eat tonight. They may eat what you planned. They may eat something else. But I was also in drama in high school, and we all know in musicals, you mess up your words, you keep going. You do this, you keep going. Half the people will never know the difference anyway.
So then towards, you had that incredible role, but then in 2009, you decided to go your own way.
Boom.
And why did you decide to leave such a phenomenal role? Some people would say it's a huge role.
It was.
Right? Global,
it was.
To then go it alone and really start your own journey.
Yeah. So 2009 was actually 2007. And my husband is an airline pilot. And one day I came home from work. We had planned a trip to Thailand. And he said, "Oh, by the way, we're not going to Thailand." I said, "What?" "No, we're going to Dubai." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." "And I have an interview," he said. I said, "What?" And he said, "And you have an interview." I said, "What are you talking about?" We went. And at that time, I understood it was an interview with Emirates Airlines. And he had an interview. The interview process back then, let's remember, 2007 is not 2025, right? So the interview process back then, I think, was even more rigorous than it is today. And so it kind of consisted of 5 days of interviews.
Wow.
At the end of each day at 7 p.m., you waited by the telephone to know, do I go on or am I cut? So day 1, he goes on. Day 2, he goes on. Day 3, he goes on. Day 4, the spouse is on.
They interview the spouse?
Yes, because, again, Dubai has, as we all know, grown so tremendously and in ways that we couldn't have imagined back in 2007. So in 2007, the company's concern was they would spend a lot of money, use the resources to bring pilots, do their training, which is not inexpensive in aviation, and that a few months later, the spouse says, "I don't like it, I can't stay, let's leave."
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So, all of that kind of is what was going on. So we came, the days when he was having his interviews, I was walking around the city and saying, "Could I live here? What did I think?" And all those kind of things. And I said, "Yes, I think I could," So when at the end of it, he was offered the position, we went back to the States, and literally a month later, maybe less than a month, he was gone. Now, Emirates, doing things the Emirates way, provided an amazing package. Victoria, being Victoria, said, "Is this really true?" And as we've just talked about, I had a pretty good gig going myself. So I wasn't quite ready to just fold up shop and, leave for a promise. So for the first year, he was here and I was back in the States.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right,
So we had this crazy commuting thing until all the great promises that they made us actually were true. And then I said, okay, I think it's time, right? I think it's time.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up here.
Okay. So once you ended up here,
Yes.
what was your plan?
Yes. So during the year that we were commuting back and forth, not seeing each other much, but if he got a flight to New York, I would drive from Boston. I would take the Amtrak train down from Boston.
Right.
We'd spend a couple nights together, do our thing back.
Yeah.
Or I'd come here. And during that time, I did try to think about what are the opportunities? I mean, I've built my career on international trade, international advisory and all of that. Is that an opportunity here? And I kind of decided that it was and that I should give it a try. And then like anything, if it really doesn't work, then move on to something else. So I basically took the business model that I had, although now it's no longer a government involved, now it's all me.
Yeah.
And that's a completely different level of worry, belief in oneself, pressure, and all the rest of it. I didn't at the beginning. I think I put more pressure on myself now than I did at the beginning, because at the beginning it was like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right. Okay.
And I was fortunate enough that some of my clients that had worked with me in the US, Canada, those were my first clients here.
Oh, so it all ties back.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. My very first client, and I'll always be, thankful to them, was Canadian maple syrup, which was totally unknown in this market. People knew honey, people knew sugar. Nobody knew what maple syrup was, nor what a maple tree was.
So you put them on the map.
So I put them on the map.
And was that a regional sort of marketing role for that brand?
Yeah. So it was GCC wide.
Right.
But of course, even the concept of GCC and what each country had to offer was very different. Back now, let's say it's 2008, 2009, right? Today we can talk about strengths and weaknesses in different countries. Back then, yes, of course, all the countries existed, but the only one that was really on the map in terms of open for international business, again, was the UAE and Dubai. So it was regional, but the idea was make a success here. Once we do that, we can go on a road show to the other GCC countries and show them what we've done here.
And is that what happened?
That is what happened.
Right. So then how did your business begin to grow and then become more stable?
Yeah. Well, my business grew and then became unstable and then grew again and became stable. And so I think this is also a life lesson. And my grandfather, my Russian grandfather, would tell me, Victoria, make a plan, have a path, take a step. I think you're going to find out in step 2 that it won't be the direction you thought it was going to be. It'll probably be over here. So keep your dreams, but don't be so stuck to the process that you don't see the path.
Kind of like the violin.
Kind of like the violin.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah,
yes.
it is very interesting actually, because I want to also understand before we get into sort of the whole 2019 and potatoes USA. Mm-hmm. From the perspective of your marketing experience,
right?
How has it? I mean, I'm talking about the GCC. How has it changed the market from 2009 to 2025? Because it must be two very different landscapes.
Of course, it is. And I should add that in that time frame, and this is something that, of course, probably has been boiling in me since the 10-year-old girl, is that international trade is a pathway to peace. I fundamentally believe that stronger than I believe anything else. And that's what keeps me going. It's what kept me going then, and it's what keeps me going now. Of course, there are individual companies and there are individual products. But in my mind, there's a much bigger framework here. How do countries like communists and capitalists, like Russia and the United States, right? How do they find a common ground forward? Well, food is one big way that they do that. That same concept applies today, and it applied, between 2009 and 2025 in other regions and other countries as well. So at one point, to get back to your specific question, at one point, again, the Quebec government said, Okay, we know you left. We want to open a trade office for the GCC region. Are you interested? Well, yeah, I'm interested. There were lots of things going on with that. Probably most importantly, that it was everything but food.
Okay.
So here's another gut check, Victoria. You say you're a marketer. You say you're a business development. You say you can find, opportunities for companies in the market. And we know you can do it in food, but can you do it in other areas, such as construction, Big Five, such as healthcare, Arab health, such as IT, GITEX, and sectors like this, biotechnology, and all these, which you may not have been schooled in and certainly didn't grow up in those industries, but are there transferable skill sets that go along with it? At the same time, I didn't want to give up my food stuff. So it wasn't part of their mandate, but I negotiated that I would continue to work with those companies outside of the scope of this project.
And you did this project?
And I did. So for 3.5 years, it was amazing because I really got to meet a lot of very influential people throughout the region. Very influential. And so usually, I was accompanied by the ambassador of whatever country it was. And, it was kind of, pinch me, am I really doing these kind of things? But it was also the time in Dubai when if someone asked you, can you do this? You said, of course I can. And then you figured it out. Today, that doesn't happen as much anymore.
Yeah.
But back then, that's how it was. Can you do this? Of course I can. And behind the scenes, how are we going to do this?
Right.
But you found a way.
But it must have been really interesting if we put the food aside to be put into, I mean, as you said, you have the sort of marketeer's head, right?
Yes.
But to go into construction and
Yes.
healthcare and
Yes.
tech.
Aluminum.
Yeah. Very different industries
Yes.
to what you're used to.
Yes.
There must have also been some sort of tricky situation in the background where you're like a swan, on the top everything is graceful, but underneath you're swimming like mad.
Yes.
I can only imagine. Also, as far as I'm understanding, construction can be extremely challenging,
Yes.
let alone the rest. How did you have a team in place for all of these things?
I had a very small team. I think I had one person hired, and then when I would bring on external people. But I think one of our best friends was Wikipedia because we, honestly,
Yeah.
I can recall like it was yesterday. We had a client that was involved in aluminum drost, D-R-O-S-T.
Right.
And so we had to do matchmaking for them and set up these potential joint venture partnerships for them. And I didn't have a clue. None of us had a clue. So what does Wikipedia say? So we literally sat around a table and said, let's take a step back. How does one make aluminum? And after we kind of and you know what, James, it's funny. It all comes back to cooking because we dissolved it into things like lipstick and nail polish. Let's make it easy. Let's make it like a food recipe. Oh, here's how you make aluminum. And after you make aluminum, just like if you were to make cheese, there's the whey.
Yeah.
What do you do with that whey? Is it a biohazard? Is it something you can do something else with? That's what drost is.
How interesting. So what can you do with it, by the way?
You can recycle it.
Okay. So it's essentially this sort of waste product from aluminum.
The aluminum,
right?
making
Okay.
aluminum.
Right, okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you must have learned so much
Yeah.
along the way.
About so many different topics.
So then, let's get into all things Potatoes USA.
Yes. Amazing.
First of all, how did this project come about? Did they come to you? Did you go to them? Because it's very specific.
Yes. Neither, actually. What happens in a lot of these, Potatoes USA is the national marketing board for the United States potato growers.
Okay, so that's number one.
Like who are they? And so then that ties into how we got in touch with one another, right? Usually for clients like this, there are something called RFPs, request for proposals.
Okay.
And so the RFPs go out to a bunch of different kinds of people. If someone from the organization had traveled to the region before and met companies such as my own, maybe they would have a short list. They also rely on the consulates and embassies in the countries, like in this case, the U.S. consulate and embassy, for who they know are doing things. So my company received an RFP one day from Potatoes USA. And so that's really how it all started. And so, as is always the case, you spend a week of your life putting together these proposals for free,
right,
and hope that you make it to the second round.
So you never know.
You never know. No, you never know. And so we did. And we spent a lot of time trying to really think about it and all that kind of stuff, and made it to the second round, and then ultimately were awarded the contract. But we didn't have an insider's perspective on it. Kind of like the Quebec thing. I wasn't an insider, but we just did the work to prove we were the agency for them.
And can I just ask, the RFP at that time, I'm sure it was a digital document, let's say.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was Microsoft Word.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
And how many pages? I mean, was it a huge document because you had to break it down into segments and things like this?
So yes, the amazing thing about Potatoes USA is as a client is that the mandate is fresh potatoes, frozen potatoes, and what we call dehydrated or instant potatoes, which people in this region still don't understand. We have our work cut out for us in that segment. And it was across retail, food service, or HoReCa, as we say here, and ingredients, so manufacturing. That takes you everywhere that the food industry is.
Right.
So you can only imagine the RFP. I don't remember how many pages it was. I really don't remember. Our response was probably around 50 pages, like writing a university thesis.
Yeah, I was going to say.
With timelines and charts and all this, and here's what we'll do. And also you say at the time, I know I have to do this, but I am giving away my proprietary brain. And so, you know.
Because they could take all the ideas from you, right?
That's right.
So let's say, that happened. You got through to the second round. What happened in the second round after they initially said, yes, we like your proposal?
Well, I think in the second round, with me, it's going to be fairly easily go one of two ways. I do have a personality, and my personality will come through. For example, my husband always tells me I should dress corporate because this counterbalances my personality.
Right. Do you listen to him?
I do. in that realm. Not in all things, but in that realm. And I thought, I honestly think that's one of the most amazing insights that anyone has ever given, because I would dress before I would dress in crazy colors because they stimulated me.
Right.
But then you meet this person wearing crazy colors with these big eyes and these crazy thoughts. And you didn't know, where was the substance? And basically, working half a world away, these clients need to trust me with their money. And they can't watch every second of every day what I say I'm doing, right? So I actually think that I don't know how my husband was able actually to figure that out about me, maybe because he's my husband. But I think it was, yes, in that case, a smart move to listen to him.
And they are a semi-governmental entity, correct?
Correct. And most of our clients are. We work on behalf of food companies. 80 to 95% of our clients are food, but often the payer in some way, shape, or form is the government. So again, governments are more stable and less risk-taking and all the rest of it. So round 2, now you're going to see Victoria and you're going to talk to Victoria. And that could go either very well or the opposite way. You saw our strategy on paper. Is there a good fit as people? Mm-hmm. So that was what round 2 was.
And this was, so let me just say, was it a Zoom type setup, let's say?
Yes.
And how many people were on that call?
Yeah. On their side, they work in a very, I don't know whether bureaucratic is exactly the right word, but in a very group way. So it was me and one other person on my side and probably 8 people on their side. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare for me.
I mean, you don't know where to focus.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, who do I focus on, right?
And are all of them asking you questions?
Yes, but there were a few that were the primary,
Right.
you know, the chief marketing officer, right, is going to ask more questions than the assistant manager of whatever specific program it was.
It sounds like a deposition.
It was.
Almost,
it is.
right?
It is.
So after that, and how long was that process? Was it like an hour, 2-hour call?
It was probably a few hours, like 2 hours. Wow. But the time between was also a killer because after the first round, there was a long lapse of time, and I thought, okay, well, we didn't.
When you say long, what is it like 6 weeks? Or?
Probably something like that.
Right. Okay.
And so
that's
a long time.
That's substantial. Yes.
Yes, and I mean, they give you specific deadlines, right? Like we have some new RFPs due this Friday. Okay. You put deadlines, so I'm expecting the same treatment back. And so I think they had put something in there about when they expected to make a decision and had been past that time period. So, but as we learn in business, it's never no until it's no.
Mm. And also, do you follow up? Do you not follow up?
Well, that's the whole point. Yes. And of course, you send something afterwards saying, just checking, did you receive? Because, we all know things get lost in
spam, blah, blah, blah.
Spam and all that. And then afterwards, okay. And then, at some point, I said to them something like, you may have chosen someone else. We can't win every time. We're convinced we're still a great, agency, but I'd rather just take you off my to-do list if you have made a decision. No, we have not. There's been delays. We haven't made decisions. Okay, now you're getting all excited again, right? Then the second round. And after the second round, they ask for more documentation. Okay, so we gave them more documentation. And after that, it was like, yes, let's do this.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
So then, done deal, everything is signed.
Yes.
And then the real work begins.
Yes.
So first of all, for people who don't necessarily know or may not have heard, what do Potatoes USA sort of do within the region itself? Because you already touched upon 3 sort of major segments. So you have the fresh potatoes, you have the Horeca, let's say, and then you have the dehydrated. Right. So first of all,
frozen,
sorry.
meaning the Horeca.
Right. So first of all, are you a supplier?
No.
Okay, so that's out the way. So you're not a supplier.
We are not a supplier.
So then are you, again, a sort of bridge from, let's say, the farmers to the actual end user?
Depends on how you determine who the end user is. We are definitely a bridge. And so we are bridges between the American industry, whether it be farmers, and it is over 2,000 commercial potato growers. Secondarily, we work with the value-added products, such as the frozen fry companies that we all know, the Golden Arches and all of that.
Sure.
And then the Dehy brands and unbranded products as well. So that is on one side of the bridge. On the other side of the bridge, meaning the here side of the bridge, we work with anyone who is in the ecosystem or environment to help us have more people eating more U.S. potatoes more of the time. Said very simply.
Right.
So chefs, we do chef trainings. Well, the first thing we found was let's talk to chefs and see what they think about our products and blah, blah. And really what we found is, of course, everyone knows what a potato is, but even quite scholared, if that's the word, or schooled chefs may have a very limited understanding of the different attributes of different types of potatoes. So we saw right away there's work to be done even in educating chefs. This is a rice and chai market more than a potato and coffee market, for example.
Right, got you.
So, okay, we do chef-to-chef programs. Trust me, I'm not the one giving the session to the chefs here. It's professional chefs that we're working with, the crème de la crème, so to speak, who are imparting the wisdom to other chefs. We work with culinary schools. So the culinary school scene is in development. It had, I think, a strong growth at one point. Today, I think it's having another one. UAE is kind of leading the way as opposed to the rest of the GCC. No surprise, I guess. And so we do culinary trainings as well, and also sponsorships. So we sponsor some students. Retail promotions, we work with most retailers here in the market, and that kind of project can either be sampling to consumers, or this year we're doing a different type of program with one of our retailers, which is a 4-page spread in their in-store magazine and online magazine with chef YouTube videos, call to action, that whole thing. So we're taking the marketing to the next level. It's not so direct anymore.
Right.
HoReCa promotions, social media. And then on the business development side, we also work on appointing importers and distributors. You asked a very good question. We are not suppliers ourselves. So we're not in competition with any of those people. We only help them sell the products because we have value-added services that are free of charge to our partners.
And did it surprise you, Victoria, when you were first, rolling out these programs specifically for the chefs? Did it sort of surprise you in terms of, and this is not to sort of put yourself on the spot or any chefs or anything like that, but the sort of lack of education on potatoes, did that surprise you?
Yes, it really, I didn't consider myself an expert on I still don't consider myself an expert on potatoes, but I was surprised that there wasn't just more general understanding about the difference between starchy potato, waxy potato, what you need to make the perfect fry, what kind of potato. It's not any kind of potato that can do that. Right? And moisture content versus starch content. As a non-chef, I learned those things quickly because they were important to my clients. But as chefs, that should be at some level part of the training, like
at college.
At college.
Yeah.
Potato is America's favorite vegetable, and I think it's one of the favorite vegetables around the world. And so to see that there was such a lack and a gap really was very surprising.
So since you then rolled out the different programs and workshops and so on and so forth, how has that sort of affected or helped the business along?
Yeah. Well, it has helped in a trade statistics point of view. So we've seen our trade statistic numbers go in the right direction. So we're thrilled by that. It's also the anecdotal that is very rewarding as well, like having one importer tell you, well, I always go to you when I have a question about potatoes because I feel like you're the biggest authority on them. Well,
nice.
Not just me, the team,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But it means we're doing our job.
Right.
If now you recognize us. Or then another importer who regardless of what project we're working on, usually at some point in the conversation we'll say, by the way, what do you think is the best potato, right? And I'm saying, why are you asking me that? And they say, and for what application, right? So then we'll start talking about applications and talk through what is the best potato for that specific application.
The reason why I'm asking you, Victoria, about the educational part is because what's very prevalent is that when if you're a chef or not a chef, there seems to be a lot more educational pieces on what US potatoes are doing in terms of the recipes, recipe development, online presence, compared to any other sort of potato growers or companies in the region, right? So that's why I'm just asking, because I'm really curious about it, because I've not seen it, and I've personally, as a chef, not seen it anywhere else. Yeah. And we previously had RJ on the show.
Yes.
To discuss all of the culinary things, but it seems that message from the US goes all the way across, specifically about educating not just chefs, but anyone in general. Yeah. Right?
Well, I mean, what we learned through research, when we ask simple questions, like, what are stumbling blocks to have people purchase more potatoes, regardless of whose potatoes they are, right? The consumers will tell you, I like potatoes, but I don't really know what to do with them. Okay, there's a challenge. Now, we can all brainstorm around a table and say, what are solutions to that challenge? Well, hey, let's give them recipes. If they say they don't know what to do with them, let's give them recipes. Which kind of recipes? Depends on maybe where they're buying their potatoes, which might give us some hints into their ethnicity and, types of recipes they might like. And along with it, potatoes are viewed as being very nutritious, but there's this halo, which hopefully is starting to go beyond, of carbs are bad for you. And potatoes are carbs.
Right.
So what can we do other than give out scientifically backed nutritional advice? And by the way, the USDA is a pit bull about making sure every single piece of communication that we put out into the audience, whether it's a professional or a consumer, is accurate.
Okay.
So there is no fuzzy marketing with what we can say.
So that's really interesting. And again, so US potatoes as a whole, they don't just have offices within the Middle East. They have offices globally, right, in various different markets.
Yes.
So that information that you're telling me has to be 100% accurate, fact-checked all the way throughout, correct?
Correct. Spot on.
Right.
And in different languages.
Yeah, and also, you're right. I mean, the potatoes have had a bad rep, but the truth is they're 90% water, right? Minor calories, right? And if you're a chef who loves cheese, truffles, all the good stuff, that's the calories, right?
Right.
But it's not necessarily the potato. The potato is just like a carrier.
Correct.
Correct? So
potatoes have 130 calories for one medium-sized skin on potato. Do you know how filling one medium potato is? It's nutrient dense. There's I should know this off the top of my head, 2 or 3 grams of protein. There's 2 or 3 grams of fiber. There is more potassium than in a banana, more vitamin C than in a tomato. So it's a winner. And just like you just said, yes, if all you do is slather on, some of these other products, then of course that is going to change the nutritional composition.
And the other one that you touched upon, which I'm particularly interested in, is the dehydrated product.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Now, for anybody who hasn't, used dehydrated potatoes in the past, I think, first of all, because when you say instant mash,
yeah,
I think from a consumer perspective and a chef perspective, you're already thinking this is horrendous.
Right.
Instant mash. What is instant mash?
Right.
But when it comes to the dehydrated products, can you tell me a little bit more so people really understand?
Yeah. Chefs think, why are you trying to sell powder?
Right.
Potato powder. That's what they think. Some consumers say, this is like Frankenstein. It's chemicals. It's not even a real product.
Okay. Are they correct?
They're incorrect. Potatoes, dehydrated potatoes, let's just look at the word dehydrated. Dehydrated simply means with the water taken out.
Right.
So take a potato, take the water out. That is the beginning of a dehydrated potato. Now, that's the beginning of it, because once you take the water out of it, obviously that changes its form. And then you can do all kinds of amazing things and turn it into different types of dehydrated products, such as shreds. So, the great American breakfast that has hash browns and all these kind of things, even if you go like to IHOP here, they're in some, maybe I shouldn't say, I don't know. Their hash browns are made with dehy.
Right.
You can have dehy slices. Top Michelin star restaurants in Spain will tell you that working with a dehydrated sliced potato gives a better result in my finished product than a fresh potato. Okay? Because in a fresh potato, maybe you want to add milk and cream, but the fresh potato has water in it, as you just said. A dehydrated potato is dehydrated. So you put that milk and cream, it rehydrates it, and adds all that yumminess without too much moisture.
So let me just get this right, because I want to break it down to make sure that we've got our facts correct.
Yeah.
So as an example, right, and we take the very most basic example.
Right.
Let's say if you go to a supermarket and you see dehydrated potatoes, the most famous brand, let's say, is called Idaho, right? So everybody knows Idaho potatoes, and it's one of the regions which is phenomenal, right? And it's the most famous, especially commercially. But not just because of that, because genuinely they have incredible farms.
Right.
Right? So if you look on the packet, it says simply add water or milk, butter, cream, all the good stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it just rehydrates into actual mashed potatoes. So there is no chemicals in this.
That's right.
Right? But it's got to be through a very specific brand.
Right.
Correct?
Well, on the brand point, as you know, Potatoes USA is what we call brand agnostic. So we do not promote one brand over the other. We promote the entire potato industry. So in our language, Idahoan is one of the dehy companies that's here, but there's Bob's Red Mill, there's Hungry Jack, there's Signature Select, there's sometimes Betty Crocker. So there's many different dehy companies that are competing in this market, just to kind of bring that
and
back.
these farms are all over the US, right?
Yeah. Well, an interesting fact about U.S. potato growers is that nothing is grown by accident or by mistake. The farmer or the grower knows during the planting season what they're planting for what usage.
Ah.
So they know.
That's interesting.
It's really interesting. They know if their potatoes are going to be on consumers' tables as table stock potatoes. They know if their potato is going to be going to one of the major frozen fry or U.S. fry companies to be turned into all kinds of frozen fries and, all those products. And they know if it's going to be sent to make dehy. And there's different specs to all those different types of products.
But the other thing that is also quite interesting, apart from that side of things, is also the scientific backing behind the potatoes and the farmers and what happens on in the fields, right?
Yeah.
Because, as you said, the USDA, they are pit bulls, and I like that word.
Good pit bulls.
Yeah, good people. Well, basically, they are the police in a way, and what I really like is that they are understanding different bugs, the soil, all of these sorts of things. Why have they gone to such a great extent to do that?
Well, the first answer is because this is to protect the U.S. consumer. The second answer is this is to protect worldwide consumers. I mean, USDA stands for, in a very big way, food safety. And so that is their job, to make sure everything we eat is 100% safe, that has been checked once, twice, 3 times, for a lot of different criteria. It's not just one criteria. And that is their role, to keep the food supply safe for the people that are eating the products.
Right. So when it comes to the technical support aspect of things, specifically within this market, so if we take away the chefs for a minute and you're talking about the much larger sort of supermarkets or retailers, how do you help them to not just push the product if there is an issue and all of those sorts of things?
We work in great collaboration with the USDA here. People may not realize, but there actually is a USDA office here in Dubai. So we don't often encounter like quality problems or things like that, but we do partner with them if there could be possibly a labeling issue or something like that. But more, it's having them attend our events, having them be aware of what we're doing, and really partnering with us, using their logo, because we know the consumer here and therefore the retailers here see that as an additional safety seal.
Mm. And when you're in the trade shows, how, and again, when you first started,
Yes.
let's say with US potatoes in these trade shows,
Yep.
compared to now, how knowledgeable is the market?
Well, of course, I would like to say, it's night and day away. And I do believe I gave 2 examples of, people who come to us and say, well, we know you're the potato expert. So clearly the market is more knowledgeable. One of the challenges of this region is the degree to which there is turnover. So our job is never done because,
turnover in terms of humans, you mean?
Right. Yeah. Yes, that's what I meant. People stay for a few years, then they may leave, then they may go somewhere else. They might be responsible for another category. And so the job of educating really is never done because there's always someone else that can use that education.
Because I think, again, it's such a broad spectrum of things that you're involved in. I mean, and I'm talking about, first of all, with the potatoes, because if you were a supplier, it's easy then, you're a supplier, but you're not. You are educating,
right.
You're the bridge,
right.
You're working with governments,
right.
You're trying to,
right.
and also
all that.
What must be, again, sort of challenging in a way is people asking you the obvious question of, well, we're not in the US. Why should I go for US potatoes and all of this kind of stuff? And again, it's the educational piece. It doesn't mean that you're trying to sway anybody from using regional
and I don't
potatoes, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, and it's one of the things that when anyone says, what's wrong with a regional potato? The immediate answer is nothing is wrong with a regional potato. And then the education continues. Most regional potatoes have a very high water moisture content and a much lower starch content.
Right.
So tell me what you're trying to make.
So it's all about the application, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to go into the growth within the sector, within the GCC, but not just about the potatoes. I want to understand your job when it comes to having fun with the clients, because there must be so many other ways of interacting with not just the boring chefs.
Oh, chefs are not boring. They're not always easy to convince,
Right.
but they're not boring.
Because also you travel to many other different markets and you wear many other hats. But when you're connecting the industry overall, why are you still so passionate about it?
Well, I think the answer to that is probably something I said a little while ago, which is I really feel like on a very deep level, my mission is to help bring peace to the world. And the best way I know to do that is to keep carrying forward the message that cultures and cuisines sitting at the same table are less likely tomorrow to shoot each other.
But that's a huge message, Victoria, and in an amazing way.
And I believe it.
And and again, if we step away from the food part, when you're are dealing and have dealt with different governments,
Right.
is that message loud and clear? When you're specifically talking to these officials and essentially, I call it breaking bread.
Yep.
Right? Over the table.
Yep.
And you're having these diplomatic discussions. Have you seen that in terms of the connecting and the understanding with two different parties?
Yes, is the short answer. And I mean, last week I was in Saudi Arabia and we had a sit down with 7 people from SFDA, Saudi Food and Drug Administration. These are the people that make the rules about what gets into the country.
Right.
And again, it's all about food safety. You know, they're protecting people coming in. And so it's not always straightforward to get an appointment with them and to get such a great reception and so many of them explaining in so much detail what they do. And I think, you know, besides breaking bread in this region, humor is key. And so I'm never really afraid to make fun of myself or to say things in a very characteristic, you know, like with characters, because that takes people away from being so stern.
Sure.
And people laugh, and then suddenly you've broken down. Then when you've broken down, the message can come through a lot easier. And so to sit there and talk to them and say, my goal is to bring more investments. My goal is to have our two countries work more closely together. There's no other hidden agenda. That's what I'm here for.
So when you're working away, if we step away from Potatoes USA, what are the other projects that GMA is currently working with that is connecting?
Yeah. So right now, we're working with other state departments of agriculture. So Washington State Department of Agriculture, which is all the way over on the West Coast, right, the Pacific Ocean. We work with Hawaii Department of Agriculture and 2 different divisions of it. Whereas with Washington, it's very broad. It could be hay and alfalfa that is grown and shipped here because it is considered to be the highest quality for racehorses.
We have many of those
We have many of those here.
Award-winning.
Award-winning.
And royal as well, right?
Absolutely. So this is one area that's still food, might not be human consumption, but it's still food. And obviously Seattle is well known for seafood and a lot of other products like that. Hawaii, it's all very high-end coffee, like $1,000 per kg of coffee.
Whoa.
Yeah, good stuff.
Is it tasty?
It's tasty. It does have a different taste than the profile of, you know, probably the typical coffee. But we entered a coffee auction, the first ever Dubai coffee auction last year. And so it's not us telling people that's good coffee. It's the world's best coffee experts telling us you're one of the top 22 coffees for this auction.
No way.
And you had to win the right to get in. You couldn't just say, oh yeah, I want to get in the auction. Like they had a jury that decided who gets into the auction. So that's been an amazing project for us too. And then we just finished, actually, a really good project working for a group called WUSATA, which is the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association, I think, WUSATA. But it's all the 16 U.S. states on the West Coast.
16.
So California, Washington State, Oregon, and then, like inwards. This project was seafood oriented, so of course it brought the
Close
coast.
to your heart?
Of course.
Of course.
It all comes back to the heart, right? And so we did an amazing two-country trade mission. So we had a delegation of seafood suppliers come, everything from Dungeness crabs, which are these amazing crabs, not very well known in this region, to wild-caught salmon. Nothing like farmed salmon, coho, king, white king. These are very rare fish. White king, you don't even know until you head and gut it that it's a white king salmon. Dover sole, just a bunch of really great sea urchin, uni, sea cucumbers. I don't know, I'm sure I'm missing some, but just a great group. And so, we spent 4 days here and 4 days in Riyadh. And the reception was amazing.
And how so it was these suppliers were all from the US and they were here?
Yes, they all came.
And how did they enjoy their time?
They loved it. I mean, there's adaptation,
of course.
And there's jet lag and all the rest of it. And that's why you need bridges, because the West Coast is 11 or 12 hours away.
Right.
So it's noon, it's midnight.
Okay. So they were a bit tired.
So they were a bit tired. We tried to give them a break the first morning,
right, Yeah.
But they're here to work. They're not here to sleep,
sure.
Right? And so they were going crazy over all the architecture, everything they were seeing here, in Dubai. And just when we talk about the population of Dubai, but how the population is pretty irrelevant when you talk about the opportunity, right? The opportunity is way bigger than just looking at the, number of people who live in Dubai.
Sure.
Right?
But I'm interested to know, what did they sort of take away, apart from the incredible architecture and all these sorts of things, in terms of the opportunities and restaurants and hospitality? What were their thoughts?
Well, we truly, I hate to say, this is a little bit disappointing, we didn't spend that much time visiting hospitality outlets. We had private events that were set up that were more, facilitating buyers and sellers and chefs and things like that. So there wasn't that much time. We did in Riyadh have the time for one nice meal at Roca. And that was a meal that pleased everybody. And of course, the Japanese fusion forward was perfect for seafood, right? But I think in general, people came away seeing the amazing hospitalities, even in hotels. Like not necessarily the food service portion of it, but just the service level.
I think that's really amazing, because also you must have seen a great change within hospitality from the time that you were first here to now. But I want to ask you, what is the future for your company in terms of what you want to do?
Well, there's two things on my agenda. The first is to keep growing what we are doing. As with anything, there's time involved to get your name out there, to be known and all that kind of stuff. And even though we've been around for almost 20 years, as I said, there were some years we weren't as involved in food. We were doing all these other sectors. Just a bit of a challenge. And then we came back. Food is my first love, clearly. We came back to that. So now it's to keep developing that. And that is, we are adding clients at a good clip. And then the other thing I want to do is the reverse. I want to start bringing businesses from here back to the US.
Oh, so how does that process work, and how difficult is that?
I don't believe it's more difficult than doing what we're doing now. The U.S. has very clear rules and regulations laid out that don't change that frequently.
Okay, so it's not easy, but it's very straightforward in terms of the processes, let's say.
Yeah. So So we have a couple of clients in Saudi, one here. This is the new thing that we're just working on really within the last 12 months, basically. And so I think there's a lot of avenue to grow. But again, going back to the beginning words, take a step forward. Now, will the next step be directly in front of you, or will it be to the right or to the left? That, don't know yet.
And from your experience within the GCC, you've obviously seen the huge explosion of restaurants that are here.
Yeah.
On top of that, you have the global guides that are here.
Yeah.
And you're in a very sort of interesting position that you've seen the chefs grow, you've seen hospitality grow, so on and so forth, and as well as seeing, what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is doing. What are your thoughts on the scene when it comes to hospitality and dining in the region?
Where else do you want to be? Look, there's the dining and hospitality scene. There's the vibe of a city, right? Those two can work together or against each other. There are amazing cities in the world, but they don't have necessarily a very good food or culinary scene. And there are a few cities that have both the vibe, a very vibrant place, and an amazing culinary scene. That is Dubai, right? That is Dubai. So I would say that without hesitation, that, you come to Dubai and you're going to have as an amazing culinary experience as you have the time for and the pocketbook for and everything, But having said that, it doesn't have to be, there are amazing places to go that are not expensive, so to speak. So it's just finding, your places within it. But what can you say other than it's an amazing place here?
But with your sort of position as well, you're based here some of the time. You're based in the US some of the time.
Right. Don't ask me to choose. Don't ask me to choose.
No, but it must be really interesting also because you, from the US standpoint, you obviously get to see and feel the seasons with the different fruits and meats and all of that kind of stuff, but also to then also see the vibrancy of Dubai. It must be quite a nice thing to experience.
And I think that last sentence kind of sums up the way I feel about it. I don't look at the two places in competition with each other. They both offer amazing things. You could say, of course, restaurant A competes with restaurant A, in the two cities, but I think that's a false comparison. In Dubai, we're not as hooked up on seasonality because we're spoiled and we have everything pretty much all the time. You want a mango year-round, you can get it. It might be from Kenya, it might be from Australia, it might be from Egypt, but you can find one. And in the U.S., that's less true.
Right.
When the season is there, it's there. And when it's not, it's not. So, there are differences that way. New York is an amazing city. And, I think I will always say that it's an amazing city, like any place with its...
Yeah, but, any city has its ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
And pluses and minuses, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
This is just a personal question. Sure. How is the dining scene in New York City? Because you understand what's happening here, but in New York it's an incredibly mature market for dining. Yeah. How competitive is it?
I think it depends on what it is you're looking for. Personally, because we're talking kind of personal here. In general, I'm not looking for Michelin star. If you're a one-star restaurant, you have some incentive to try to make it to 2, let's say.
Right, sure.
But once you get to 2, I'm not sure that the pressure doesn't outweigh the desire to make it to the last. And if you've got those 3, God bless you, because what do you do now? What do you do now?
Yeah.
Those have not been my best. I was trying to think about what is my absolute best meal ever, and I couldn't. I mean, I could think about all these amazing 3-star Michelin restaurants I've been to try to pick one or not one. What is my best meal? And I really couldn't. So New York, that's not here. That's more like the thing, you know, okay, the Guide Michelin's here and all that kind of stuff. And so we're really into that. And that goes along with Dubai. New York, you know, can be the city that never sleeps, can be the gritty city. You know, it's a lot of different things. So I, in New York, look more for little gems, you know, even little ethnic restaurants, and say, there's where the creativity is coming from today, not from the high end.
Right. And would you say, is that the same thing for the street food scene in New York?
The street food scene, I probably am not so well versed on. For me, I can take the train in door to door and be in Midtown Manhattan in 35 minutes. Okay, so that's a real privilege to be able to do that. And what do I want to do? I want to go to one of the street vendors, have the real experience getting bagel and cream cheese. You know, this again is not high end, but it's like the real New York.
Right.
The halal guys, right? I mean, they're well known, right? So all those places, yeah, they are. I don't know how innovative they are, but they're a strong part of the fabric.
Exactly. It's part of the culture as well, right?
It's totally part of the culture.
It must be so interesting to
you
experience
can't
that.
walk down a street. I mean, like, you take 3 steps and maybe there's another one, or the pretzel guy, or the this guy, you know, or the that guy. And yeah, even the bad coffee, you want it, right?
I'm going to ask you also and you said your husband's a pilot.
Yes.
So you must have also traveled extensively to different parts of the world. And I just wonder, you know, that question is really amazing that you sort of ask yourself, which is, you know, what's the best meal you've ever had in your life? And it may not necessarily be a meal. It might be an experience which is attached to the meal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So from your travels,
don't ask this question.
It must be because, you know, your brain must be, you've seen so many amazing things.
Yeah.
Especially if your husband said, oh, by the way, we were going to go to Bangkok, but we're going to Dubai.
And we're going to move there, right? We're going to live there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should also say that my husband is a pilot, but he thinks he's a chef.
Ah, okay.
And so...
Has he ever been in a kitchen service before?
No. And he could not. He's amazing at what he does, which is, like, he's not afraid of any cuisine. He loves Asian cooking, and we'll dig in and just say, okay, I need to have 10 recipes and I'll try to make, you know, this dish. And he won't stop at the first one. I'll like dabble.
Right.
He'll perfect. He'll keep making again and again. But then it becomes part of his signature repertoire when we have guests.
And where is he from?
He is born in Algeria, so he's Algerian father and French mother.
Okay.
So he has this amazing dichotomy as well. So very strong culinary. I mean, couscous, you need an entire lifetime to make it the way the grandmothers do.
Yeah.
And he can still say, no, this is not as good as my grandmother
Amazing.
made. But well, your question was, sorry, I'm
just saying from
because we went so many.
From experiences, you know, travel experiences. I mean, there must be so many incredible experiences that are tied to food.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, something, I don't know why this popped into my mind, but since it did, I'll just say it. Greece, which is Greece. It's an amazing country. I can't say that it's the most exotic place I've ever been. That's the place I learned to love sardines. Now, my father going back to the Russian Latvian heritage, would eat sardines in the kitchen and smell the whole place up. And we were like, have to get out of the kitchen now, right? But he was in all his glory and tried to get us to try them, but no. But when I was in Greece, and again, it was tied to just the perfect evening in the perfect cafe outside, and the weather was amazing, and the grilled bread and the olive oil and garlic that was rubbed on it, and just these sardines that didn't need anything.
And that's exactly what I mean. It's these little beautiful experiences that are sort of tied.
Yeah.
You know. So Victoria, we've now come to the quick fire questions.
Okay.
First off,
do we need a quick fire? Do I need a helmet?
No. You're all good. But I'm going to ask you the most difficult question that I ask all the guests on here.
Yes.
Including the chefs, and the chefs struggle the most.
Okay.
With this question.
Hopefully not. I won't struggle more.
Apart from potatoes.
Yes.
What is your favorite ingredient?
Ingredient. I mean, no, there's a lot of answers to that. You can say salt because you need salt for everything. If I had to live with only one food, it would be an egg. You can do everything with an egg. You can make breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can make it a dessert. You can make it savory. You can do everything with an egg.
Love it. Potato bun or fries?
Fries.
Russets or baby potatoes?
Oh, both, of course. Ask a mom which child she prefers.
Now, this last one I've saved specifically for you.
Okay.
All right. Pain au chocolat or baguette?
Oh, easy, baguette.
Now, as of this moment right now, what would you say are your top 3 favorite cuisines to eat?
Well, I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to say French. But can I now nuance? I'm not necessarily such a big lover of all the heavy sauces, but done right, French would be
Okay, so French.
Done right to
So let's
me.
say French is number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Then 2?
Can I say, I don't know if it's cuisine, but I'm making it one, like Mediterranean?
Yes, of course. Of course.
So that kind of spreads a
Yes.
lot of places.
And then number 3?
What is my third favorite? See, you could pick and choose. I could say some Russian food, but I don't know that would really be my number 3. I don't think I could just say American. So what is it? I mean, Italian would be silly to say. I mean, I love Italian food.
No, but Italian falls under Mediterranean,
yeah, well,
right?
okay, all right. I wasn't thinking of it that way, but if it does, then beautiful. I'm well covered there.
Yes.
I can't say Asian. I do like certain parts of Asian food. Sometimes it's just not my thing. Okay, I'm taking too long for this answer, I think.
Algerian?
Well, Algerian is actually very good food.
Yeah.
North African
food
is really good. And the thought did occur to me. And I guess the reason I haven't said it is maybe because I don't understand it enough to say. I mean, I have a lot of Algerian cookbooks, and I've had the good fortune to eat some great Algerian food. I could say that, I suppose. If we want to, let's go with it.
All right, done. Who would you say are your top 3 food heroes, but they don't necessarily need to be chefs?
Okay. All right, that's a good nuance there, that they don't necessarily have to be chefs. The first one is an oldie but a goodie. Maybe you know, hopefully you do know. Julia Child.
Of course.
Okay.
The legend.
The legend. And so, I mean, Julia Child with her quirky voice and her mess-ups in the kitchen while she's being filmed on air and turning that negative into a positive is brilliant. Is still something that most TV shows could take a page from today. the fact that she single-handedly brought French cuisine into the lives of millions and hundreds of millions of Americans, and demystified it and took away the stuffiness of it and just talked to Americans in a way that they could understand the recipe.
And the fact that she went to France at that time, being an only female in those kitchens.
Yeah, right.
I mean...
now, she was there because of her husband's job.
Sure.
But
still.
she did it.
Yeah.
And she was a tall woman. I've met her a few times during, And then she was also a local hero because she's from Boston, which is also where I've lived for a long time. So she would definitely be the top one. If I say... my husband, it's not, maybe it's corny, but I think it's partly, as we were just talking about a minute ago, he has real convictions in a kitchen. And like I said, when we have guests over, I'll be like, oh my God, what am I going to make? What am I going to make? I'll try this new recipe. And he's like, you've never made this before. Why would you decide to serve it to guests that you've never made it before? And I'm like, because maybe it could turn out to be this amazing thing. Yeah, but maybe it couldn't. Why wouldn't you perfect something and have that be part of your repertoire? And then the other part of it is, I believe we've been married 30 years. That's a lot of...
Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing.
That's amazing with all the ups and downs it implies. Let's nobody think that, life is rosy and butterflies and, all that kind of stuff. It is some days, but in 30 years, it's not every day. He, I believe, early on, dreamed a bigger dream for me than I had for myself and believed in me. And so... I've always been his champion as he went after what he wanted to do in his career. And he's done the same for me. So that, in a way, makes him my culinary hospitality hero, if that was the word.
That's amazing.
And third, I don't know. I mean, again, I guess I'm getting too personal here, but I think I have to take it back to my parents. Because... what was that book? Everything Important in Life I Learned by kindergarten or something like that. I mean, not exactly kindergarten, but where did I learn a lot of my values and, hard work and the value of money and this and that, the other, was from them in a hospitality setting.
I'm going to ask you, if you were to open a restaurant.
Yes.
What type of restaurant would you open?
Okay. If I actually, again, this just spontaneously came, and it's something that I've talked about doing a book of and a restaurant of. And it would be a restaurant that was like a duality. There would be a French dish and its American counterpart. Right? I don't know how the marketing part all works out, but that's what it would be. And so it was, again, kind of these building bridges between cultures. And like Americans, we have grilled cheese sandwiches. Very simple. French have croque monsieur, right? Different way of looking at it. Okay, you have coq au vin. So what is the, and so there's a lot of things you could do and then start to have fun with it at the same time.
That's quite cool, though. And it's a nice concept. It's a lovely concept to marry together, actually. And it's very, I love the cross intercontinental part.
Yeah.
But it's also connected at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is really
by
nice.
The ingredients.
100%.
It's connected by the ingredients.
Yeah. Now, what advice would you give to potential, marketeers who want to really go for it?
Well, I think you just said the first one. Go for it. I mean, don't be afraid. I get a lot of requests from university graduates that have graduated from some of my universities and just got one I opened today and then put it aside, asking just that question. What advice can you give? What, your journey, can you share it? Blah, blah, blah. And I think I don't really have a habit of regretting things, so I'm not going to say I regret, but I do think I was a bit too serious when I was younger. And didn't take enough time to have fun and let things play out organically. No, things will go this way. And in retrospect, did I need to do that? Maybe not. Things could have happened. So, I would say, of course, go for it, but let things unfold in a natural way. So, I think that would be one piece of advice. For the women, in particular, there was a study. And if there's a job and there's a job description and there's 10 things on it, a woman will read that job description and say, okay, there's 10 things. I have 8, but I don't have these 2. All right, I won't apply. A man will have the same, 10 things and say, oh, I have 3 of them. I don't have 7. It's okay. I'll apply anyway. And the man gets the job because the man shows up, right? And has a lot more confidence going in. So I say to all women, and it's a lot of women that do connect with me because they see me as, I am an older woman who have been on the path. And so how did I manage that? Yeah, well, I wasn't afraid to, compete and experiment. Because I believe that experimentation at one point, I didn't want to experiment because I thought I would fail. And I thought failure was a bad thing. Today, I believe the exact opposite. Failure is an amazing thing, and it's one of the best teachers we have. When you succeed, you don't even know why you succeeded. Maybe you got lucky, maybe it was good. When you fail, you have to think about it. And it's that leads you forward to real success. And then my last thing, I just thought of this one, is I think failure also helps clarify your dreams. And by that, I mean what's truly, authentically your dream, not what other people put into your head as your dream should be this.
Right.
And again, it's if things all go well and you're just living outside, oh yeah, my parents told me this, or my friends are doing this, or my college, whoever, then you just go down that. But failure helps solidify within you what are your true dreams. And then you can be authentic, which might be a buzzword, but I believe it's also very true.
From all of your experience within hospitality and out of hospitality, traveling, seeing things. Now, you don't need to name names or name specific individuals.
Yes.
But could you tell me the funniest, the restaurant incident, or kitchen incident that you've seen or been involved in?
Okay. Well, I think, again, I need to take it back old school because, I've certainly been in a couple of funny events as a patron in a restaurant, like in a Thai restaurant in a city in another country, not here in the UAE. And all of a sudden we hear all these loud bangs in the kitchen. And one of two things happened. There was a fight, there was a big fight going on.
Like a physical fight.
Like a physical fight, and everything was flying everywhere. Or, and we think it's the second case that was true, and it's sad more than really funny, there was some kind of furry animal that got in, and they were trying to, get it away. So, not funny, but funny when you heard all the noises, what's going on in this kitchen? Somebody's lost control over something. But I guess from a personal perspective, and again, how funny is it? I don't know. But when I was working in my parents' restaurant, as I said, it was the guys back of the house and myself. I was one of the waitresses or bussing the tables when I was even younger than that. And so there's different kinds of stresses involved in both of those scenarios, right? And of course, with my brothers being in the kitchen, we would complain maybe about certain customers, but, they could blow it off because they were just in the back. And I had to go back out and smile and all the rest of it. So I think I said we also had a delicatessen and then an ice cream shop. Well, the delicatessen was the employee bathroom was right there. But as you went into the bathroom, I know this sounds crazy. As you went into the bathroom was the candy counter. So when I was so busy and so working so hard and there's nothing you can do, what did? You grab for a candy bar, any candy bar, discriminately, quickly go in to the employee restroom and eat it madly for sugar rush, right?
Yeah.
And just like, okay, you had that. Didn't even matter. This was before we had like scanners, so inventory control wasn't there. If we had more time, I'd go to the ice cream part and, like the soft serve machine, all this, right? Just doing my thing in the bathroom. But then at the end of the night, my parents would say, okay, let's have dinner now. And I'm like, oh, I'm not hungry. And they're like, how could you not be hungry? You didn't eat all day. And I couldn't, of course, say, well, I had been raiding, the the good stuff to get that sugar high pretty much all day. So I'm not sure those were completely sathing answers, but
I thought for a minute you were going to say
I could have gone a long way.
I thought you were going to say you went to the bathroom, you smashed a chocolate, it was all over your face. People saw you, and then you were like serving customers.
That would have been funnier.
But it could have happened.
Maybe it did, and I didn't know it.
The last question,
yes.
Victoria, is what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
Well, I think I kind of gave it to her just 2 questions ago. I mean, I think I would say to myself, relax, everything's going to be okay, I do kind of believe things turn out the way they're supposed to. It doesn't mean we don't have, say in them, but certainly a 16-year-old perspective, I think I would just say, let it flow, have confidence in yourself. You're good. Just keep going.
Now, if somebody wanted to get hold of you through social media, what are the best means?
Well, for my company, we do have both Instagram account and a Facebook account and a website. And so the younger people are probably going to, lean towards the Instagram, GMA Dubai. I guess it's hashtag GMA Dubai. That is also our website, www.gmadubai.com. There's a place to leave a message. You'll get me. And I don't know, is there another, I guess through the show, I'm not sure if there's another way to do that.
And LinkedIn?
Yeah, of course. I don't know why I didn't think of that one. That's probably the most obvious one. Find me on LinkedIn. Tell me you saw this amazing podcast and an amazing host, more to the point, and let's link in.
Victoria, this has been an amazing chat. What I'll do first of all is with all the socials, I will link all of that in the show notes. So if anybody can they want to get hold of you through whatever, they'll have those means. Now, I wanted to say first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to be here, because I know that there's a lot going on outside and you're extremely busy. On behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, it has been amazing to have you here to get all of your insights and to sort of really understand what's going on within your company, what you've done and what you're still achieving and pushing on forward. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next, because I think it's really, really exciting. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, James. And I'm just going to say, maybe I can involve you in some of my future capers. Maybe something over in the States you'd be interested in, some kind of a collaboration.
Absolutely.
So let's talk.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, James.
What a lovely conversation. I always think it's super cool to have experience in the hospitality industry, especially if you don't work in it later on in your career. Because, for me, I believe it teaches you so many amazing lessons. And that's what exactly Victoria has brought to the show. On another point, I also agree on how food and culture can truly bring peace to the world. I always bang on and on and on about it. Breaking bread together over the table is something that can change the world for good. Victoria, thank you for sharing your story and your insights, as well as your vision with us. It's been fascinating to see the industry through your lens. The brand strategy, the regional dynamics, and the human side of making food and beverage matter in a sea of global options. If you'd like to follow Victoria or see more of what GMA Marketing are doing, please check out all of the show notes for those special links. To everyone listening, if this episode made you think differently about the way brands operate or how hospitality connects cultures, then all you have to do is press follow, as well as share it with someone who needs to hear this. And we ask that you give us a little cheeky review, 5 stars, nothing less, as it really helps the Chef JKP podcast reach more ears. That's right. You can also pick up one of our Chef JKP bottles if you want to support the show. They're slick, super cool. They keep everything hot and cold, and the branding's pretty nice, I would say. So click that all-important link in the show notes where you can get all of the details to pick these beautiful things up just before Christmas. Well, gang, that's it. This is Chef JKP signing out. Until next time, food is memories.